because he only bet 1/3 or less than 1/3 on the flop, I'm arriving with hands on the turn that must start bluffing. Jack, deuce, deuce. I could be calling with what? Like a suited Broadway with the backdoor, any of that shit, right? Like king, queen, something like that, king, queen suited.
All right, cruising down 580, listening to the Crush Live Poker Podcast. You know, I just really got to tell you, no matter how much poker or how little poker in a year I may play, and certainly my hours are down this year more than they've been in a long time, the one thing I'm always going to want to do is listen to that podcast and watch the videos online that get put up with them, because there's just no one that can break down a hand of poker like Bart Hansen. I'm sure that there's other people that from a technical level might be able to say one or two things, but no one can combine a technical knowledge of poker combined with the ability to explain it in a way that's understandable like Bart. And that's the reason why I've been subscribing to that website since 2010, and I highly encourage you, if you haven't tried it, give it a whirl and get 25% off a subscription for life. All you got to do is go through the link in the description below. We are heading over to Peppermill. The 5-10 game is getting started. I don't know how good it's going to be. Let's find out right now. I'd get into Peppermill with a 5-10 game getting going at around 11 a.m. Only 5-handed at that point. And I knew with this lineup, big pots were going to require coolers. In this hand, under the gun limps, and I looked down at king, queen of clubs in the small blind and raised to 40. Big blind and the limper both make the call. So with 120 in, the flop is king, deuce 5 rainbow, and I'm first to act. Not a lot of draws to get action from here, but I figured maybe I can keep lower pocket pairs in there if I bet small. So I just make it 40. Sure enough, both players call. So with 240 in, the turn is the 10 of hearts. This time I bet 80. Big blind calls, and this time he's the only one to do so. So with 400 in, we're heads up to the river, which comes to 9 of spades, and now I check. Against certain guys, I'm still going to value bet, but I'm not convinced this one will call me with worse here. Unless he has specifically king jack, I suppose. He just goes ahead and checks behind, so at that point I'm obviously going to be good. I table my hand, and he mucks his. I would look to continue the small ball approach in this next hand, hoping the game quality would improve. Or maybe that the game would simply fill up. Under the gun limps, and the cutoff raises to 40. I look down at pocket nines and make the call in the small blind, and the big blind and limper also call. So we're now 4 ways with 160 in, and I would end up with a pair and a flush draw on king 7-3. I check, and the cutoff ends up betting only 50 in this spot, and I go ahead and make that call. Big blind folds, and under the gun makes the call as well. So with 310 in, the turn gives me the flush. I check to see what these two do, and turns out neither one of them would bet. The river pairs the king. I said I was playing small ball at this point without a great lineup, and I meant it. I need to get called by worse here. Probably means hands without any spades in them. So I just bet out for 60. Under the gun, snap calls, and the cutoff folds. The pot is $430. I table my hand, and he shows a king and mucks. Vlog viewers know that the game Connections on the New York Times app was one that I revolutionized. If you know, you know. Anyway, my dad actually told me about a week ago there is now a sports edition. Not sure why it's not on the app and only the website, but like the main version, I know one thing, and that is that it's really easy to get the last one. We'd get a limp from middle position, a guy who always gives action. Then we get a grinder sit down on my right that rarely gives action. Turns out he's been on kind of a heater over the past period of time, and he would limp in the small blind. I'm in the big blind with queens, so how much do I raise here? I would ultimately make it 5x. If you want guys to consider folding in these multi-way pots, you're going to have to go more than that. But obviously I want action. So I go 5x, and sure enough, middle position calls as expected. I figured the small blind was folding for sure here, but he doesn't. Probably because the other guy called. So with 150 in, the flop is king, king deuce, and the small blind checks. I'm still going to be good here most of the time. I bet about half pot. The middle position limper proceeds to jam all in for about $500 here. Now, he has just sat down. He's the most action of anyone in the lineup, and I am already planning on calling him. By the way, I did have him beat here. But small blind proceeds to stand up, take off his jacket, and at that point it was clear he had a king, and then announces that he's going to call. Obviously terrible news. I cannot continue at this point, so I fold. Small blind ends up having king-jack offsuit, which I certainly wouldn't have thought he would play out of position in a spot like this against me, but he did. Then they would run it twice, and it would sting to see the first river. Doesn't matter, but still stings. And that would take us to the most 20-25 hand ever. And what I mean by that is there are more guys than ever in these games that aren't pros, but they simply never get out of line. And the guy I'm talking about here certainly can't be classified as an OMC. He's a much better player than that. But he's pretty damn tight. And he has not been playing in this game long. And the few times I've played with him, he's always run good. In this hand, I have ace-king of hearts, and 3-bet him to 125 after he opens to 30 from the low jack. Folds back around to the original raiser, and as I expected, he makes the call. So with 265 in, the flop is very interesting. Queen 10-8 with 2 hearts, no royal draw, but a big draw nonetheless. He checks, and this just feels like a must bet. I put in 145. He thinks about it for a second, and does one of the things I certainly thought I might see, and he check raises me to 350. Not the player I wanted to see do this, as he's going to be very nutted when he makes this check raise, I would think. But that said, there's no way he's going to be putting me on the nut flush draw here with a Broadway draw too often, so I can't fold this hand. And for those that say I should just rip it in here, playing 1500 effective, I just think that's ridiculous. He's going to snap call with all of his sets, or I guess the one straight he could have, and he's going to fold the weaker flush draws. Now I guess if he somehow shows up here with pocket kings, that's the one hand that I might be able to get him off if I did this, but that just felt pretty damn unlikely to me. So raising to me was out of the question. I called the 205 more with 965 in. The turn is not what I wanted to see. An offsuit ace, giving me top pair that I just don't think is going to mean much very often. And now, he checks! I mentioned the stack sizes. I think this is a spot where, if he does have a set, he might put me on this hand. Hope that I bet out for like 400 or so and then jam all in. It just felt like that's going to happen a decent amount of the time. I just don't think he's got a huge range of hands he's check raising flop and just folding turn when an ace comes. Don't think there's a ton of hands there. So I just check this behind, hoping for a heart, don't get it. River is a third spade that doesn't change much else. So now, he bets out for 400. I would then proceed to make a play that I know is not GTO. I know is going to get me a lot of hate, but all I can try and do is make the correct play at the correct time. And I fold the hand without giving it a ton of thought, probably about 45 seconds or so. I cannot put the graphic on the bottom right hand of the screen you're looking at that showcases pocket queens. I can't put it there because I didn't see it. But we had a brief conversation after this, and he said I had a set of queens. Now, I know that a lot of you are just going to say, well, that doesn't mean anything. He could be lying. Yes, he could. But I got to say, if he was lying in that spot, he's the greatest liar in the world. Because I absolutely believed him when he said he had a set of queens. I don't think his actions necessarily dictate that that's the way he's going to play a set of queens. But I see a lot of guys in this game play hands like that in weird ways that you would never imagine. And I think this is one of those. And I just don't think he wants to put nearly $1,000 in the pot and not have a set here. I just don't think he does. I've played with him enough now to know that he's not that kind of player. And I'm sure he's watching this, and he might be laughing to himself with the lower heart draw, stunned that I folded the hand. That could certainly be happening, but I don't think so. All right, for Kayla Corner, I'm struggling to win. Once again, as you just saw, with Ace King. And I need to figure out what the problem is.
Have you tried playing better?
gonna walk away now. I wouldn't get involved with many hands over the next couple of hours. I would win a few small pots, but the game remained not all that great. Ultimately, I would end up seat changing when one player came in that I thought might be giving some action. Unfortunately for me, it would go to other players. Though I would pick up a couple of big hands. First would come when we get an open to 35 in the low jack and it folds to me on the button and I look down at pocket aces. I put in a 3-bet to 125, folds around, and the low jack calls. So with 265 in, the flop is 7-4-3 with 2 hearts, and he checks. I bet 140 here, hoping he also has an overpair. But he gives it about 10 seconds worth of thought before sliding his cards into the muck. We then get it open to 40 in middle position, and I look down at ace-king in the hijack. Once again, I go with a $125 3-bet, and once again we get a call. So once more, there's a $265 pot out there, and this time we get a flop of Queen-Jack 4 Rainbow, giving me a gut shot to Broadway and what I still hoped might be the best hand. By the way, as I played this hand, I was still aggravated about a hand I had played the day before when I did not take the proper line with ace-king. Maybe I'll mention that here in a minute. But in this case, it's a 3-bet pot. I got a Broadway gut shot, maybe still the best hand, certainly control of the betting. I may get another 125 here, and almost to my amazement, he snap folds the hand. So not big pots on my last 2 pots of the day, but hands that solidified a win nonetheless. Alright, so snapping a 4-session losing streak, the last of which was a $100 loss yesterday, where I was absolutely steaming walking out here, turning a win into a loss after I had not re-raised ace-king pre-flop. I got a jack-high board. I called the original raiser's bet. I did have the best hand. Turned an ace for top pair, top kicker. He bet again, I just called, and the river was a queen. And then he made a full pot-sized bet, which I also called, and he's got ace-queen. It's like, can I do no right with ace-king? But I was steaming, and I couldn't even decide why I was steaming. Was it because of my bad luck in the hand for the 3-outer? Or was it because I should have just played the hand in a straightforward fashion, c-bet the flop, and then I would have won it? It really should be the latter. Thankfully, I'm able to bounce back today with a $586 win. Not going to turn the year around for me, but it's something. All right, so I'm taping this section of the vlog several days after that ace-king hand that I know I'm going to get ripped for when I folded the river, but I got to tell you, the more I think about it, the more I'm convinced I was right. I saw the guy that I played against play one more session after that, and I saw nothing to lead me to believe that he's not going to show up there with a set. I've seen nothing to believe it. So I feel confident that I got that one right. Would have been nice to get an onboard pairing hard on the river, but it didn't happen. I didn't actually play as much poker this week as I thought I was going to. Because I spent, I don't know how many hours watching the documentary that I referenced on this vlog a couple weeks ago, and that's Ken Burns' American Revolution. And my apologies to those of you that watch this vlog in the UK. But it's been every bit as good as I figured it would be from Ken Burns to this point. And I've only watched half of it. By the way, there's just a lot of good stuff to watch lately. I feel like I've just been watching so much good stuff. I've been watching Landman. I've been watching Pluribus, obviously my Golden Knights, and I've been watching this. So it's just been more watching than I thought I would do. But I like to think I knew a decent amount about this subject beforehand, but I hadn't realized that There was a time where they were setting up the Battle of Trenton, which really wasn't much of a battle. It was just a one-sided affair. It was kind of like the Super Bowl 24 of Revolutionary War battles. And when they talked about George Washington loading up on boats to move across the ice-choked Delaware River, I did basically a fist pump. Like, it just fired me up. I'd always realized how important it was to get that W at Trenton. The thing I hadn't realized that gets pointed out in this documentary is that a big part of the reason for them doing it in the first place was George Washington thinking, man, we have to book a win. We got to get a punch in now. And the reason for that was it was Christmas, the Battle of Trenton, famously on Christmas, 1776. But the enlistments of so many of his men were just going to run out at the end of the year. So he's like, I'm losing all these guys. We got to make something happen now. And sure enough, they did. So still got half of that documentary to continue to watch, but it's been great so far, as I certainly would have expected. If you download the Left Pocket app, you can get a free month just by using promo code DEACH. And if you want to play when you're on the go, you can check out the High Society Club on Poker Bros. All the information you need is in the description below. That'll wrap it up for us this week. Hit those like and subscribe buttons if you're new to this channel, and we will see you back here next time.